Hey everyone, how are you doing? Okay, so welcome to our live Q&A. Today we will be discussing a few B2B paid media strategies. We are really excited to have you all here sharing some valuable insights, how to leverage paid media to grow your B2B business. If you want, Romy, we can get started with the presentation.
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. So,
Okay, great. Okay, so welcome you all. I see we have a great turnout today. Some familiar faces, some familiar names. So thank you all so much for making the time and joining us. Allow me to introduce my colleague a little bit. Well, Romina Pirotto. She's an experienced paid media consultant and one of our growth leads. Together, we will be addressing today your questions and providing insights to help you enhance your marketing strategy. So consider me a little bit your co-pilot for today. So let's get to know a little bit more about Romy. Romy, she has over 10 years of experience in the industry. She specializes in ROI-driven paid media strategies and e-commerce growth strategies. She has a vast knowledge and expertise to bring to the table. She has a bachelor degree in business administration and a master degree in marketing management. So yeah, we got ourselves in really good hands today.
thank
So
you.
please, yeah. So a little bit of the agenda for today. We will start with a brief presentation. We will follow with the Q&A session, where we will be answering your questions, of course. Then we will wrap up with some concluding thoughts. So please feel free to submit your questions throughout the session. A little bit of the dynamic, just a little reminder on how to participate. You can use the chat for comments, thoughts, and interactions. For specific questions, you can use the Q&A section you will find below in Zoom. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you can participate through the interactive live chat. Okay, this is really important as well. We encourage you to unplug a little bit, so switch off and silence your mobile devices, find a peaceful spot, unplug from social media. Think of this as a guided meditation. You will not be finding your inner peace, but you will be finding really valuable insights into paid media. So have a pen and paper ready to take plenty of notes, and stay tuned for the end because we do have a surprise for you waiting.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And this is pretty important as well. So in marketing, it's really good to get to know your audience. So we prepare 4 polls that will be scattered around the presentation. This will be the first one. So it's really a really simple way for us to get to know a little bit more about you. Okay. So you have a few seconds to answer this. Don't worry, we haven't prepared any kind of retargeting strategy for whenever you select the no answer. Okay, pretty tight voting.
Let's
We will
go
be waiting a
fast.
few more seconds. Yeah,
We have more no's than yeses, so it feels
there
like an
are more
opportunity,
no's than
guys.
exactly. This is an opportunity. We'll learn a lot about how to leverage pay media then. Okay, great. So we have kind of a mixed voting. Awesome. Yeah, we will find a way to really manage to, well, cater for you all. So yeah. So Romy prepared a presentation. It's really brief. It covers a little bit of the knowledge you will need for really take advantage of today's session. Please make sure to interact during the conversation. You can include your questions in the Q&A below. So yeah, let us know and enjoy the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Feli, for your warm introduction. Okay, as we said before, you guys, not all of you are doing paid media, so I wanted to start by just saying what we're talking about here, what do we mean by paid media? And this is very straightforward. We mean digital advertising. You know, you know what it is. There are many platforms available where you can do digital ads, such as Google, Facebook, Bing, TikTok, which is the most recently popular one. And I wanted to share some examples over here. So this is the most typical search ad, search for Google ad. Then here we have some image ad for Meta, some carousel ad on LinkedIn, which are pretty similar among each other. Then we have video ads. On the left, we have the typical YouTube ad, like full screen desktop. And on the right, we have a full screen vertical for mobile, which is, very popular right now. Not so much for B2B, but, this example is for B2B as well. And we have another
Yeah, we
poll.
have another poll. We wanted to make this as interactive as possible as well. Of course, this is really funny because we expected a lot more yeses than no's, but it's good because we will cover really a lot of these platforms that are used for pay media. So yeah, the poll will start really soon, and you can let us know your answers in the meantime.
I'm not seeing the poll pop up. Yeah, there.
Okay.
Number one.
Okay, yeah, don't worry. We are. This is live television. We are having some trouble getting the poll to function right now. So let's focus on the next slide, and we can continue. In the
Okay.
meantime, you can leave us your answers in the chat if you want.
Okay, guys. So we will resume the presentation, and we can talk about this later on your Q&As. So why is paid media important for B2B? So paid media is basically a customer acquisition channel. So it is important for all kinds of businesses, any business that is present online and wants to acquire customers online. And what does it offer differently than other channels that serve the same purpose? Well, first of all, it has immediate results. So when you basically turn on a paid media campaign, you're waiting for results to start coming in on the next day. So you're getting traffic immediately. As a very big difference, for example, with SEO, where you work on a campaign and you can expect results like in weeks or even months. So this is pretty different on paid media. But of course, here you're paying for the traffic. So it's very important that the targeting is precise. So there are a lot of different options for targeting on paid media, which we're gonna cover afterwards. But it's one of the strong points of the paid media platforms that we were mentioning before, all the targeting options that they give us. And also, when we want to enhance the visibility of our brand or scale our current results, this is the main channel we go to because of both of the previous things. Like immediately we get results and we are able to speak directly to our targeting audience. And also because we have advanced analytics that come in with this platform and these platforms and the tracking that comes afterwards. So for example, in Meta or in TikTok, they tell us like how much of the video the users played, or if they engaged with our post, if they liked them, if they clicked on it, what people searched on Google, and of course what happened after they clicked and went to our website, for example, if they converted, if they bounced, where did they go to. Like all of those insights are very valuable and they help us mostly to improve our campaign. So we need to analyze all of this data and then make changes to optimize. So that's also a very important principle of paid media, right? A/B testing, optimizing. We also wanted to share some of the results that we have for paid media. And this is the average for our clients in the growth team, which Felipe is our manager. So over here we have an an 8x ROI on average for all the brands that we're managing, a 45 ROAS. So ROI is return on investment and ROAS is return on ad spend. That's why it's different. We also have more than $10 million generated in the past year and more than 40 leads per month, qualified leads in average per brand, which is also great. And then we have a few client results that particularly we wanted to share. The one on the left is from a company in the home decor industry. It has a 21x ROI, 39 ROAS in the last 8 months. And the one on the right is a B2B2C company in the food and beverage industry with a 9x ROI and 29% increase in web purchases in the last 8 months as well. So we just wanted to share some insights of what we've been doing lately. And we have another poll here. Let's see if we can launch this one. We basically want to know if you guys are doing, well, what's basically your business model, if it's B2B products, B2B services, if it's B2B or B2B2C, which means that you do both B2B and B2C.
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity as well to understand like what's the difference between, because depending on your business model, you run really different type of campaigns. So this is why we wanted to have the knowledge as well to provide you the best type of answers for your questions.
There we go.
Okay.
It says fail to start a poll. Here we have a poll. Great.
Yes.
I was looking at
Okay.
this at the same time as you guys. Okay. So we have mostly B2B, makes sense because it's a B2B talk.
Exactly. Well, it's good. It's good that we have mostly B2B for a B2B strategy.
Yeah, and it's both products and services, which is very interesting. So you can do different things when we talk about products or services, but I think that for both of you guys, like the rest of the talk is going to be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. So we have a little bit of the results there. We can continue with the presentation, Romy.
Okay. All right then. So essentially, I'm wrapping up what I was saying. Like, should we set up a website, put it out there in the internet, and sit tight waiting to get traffic and conversions? Of course not. We really need to drive traffic and users into our funnel and then bring them back again. And what is this funnel that I'm talking about? Well, it's a way of visualizing the process by which a customer becomes aware of a product, a service, a brand, learns about it, and then decides to go ahead and purchase or become a loyal customer. So it's very graphic visualization and typical for all marketing industries and companies, let's say. Very big part of an e-commerce growth strategy. And the 3 basic levels that we have on a funnel is TOFU, MOFU, and BOFU, which is top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, which are basically awareness, interest, and decision. These are the most typical. We do have the possibility of subdividing this into more steps, more levels, like it's completely customizable, but it needs to serve our interest and way of functioning. The idea is that this represents how people get into knowing your brand, and that's the biggest part, the people that get aware of our brand, and as they go through the funnel, it shrinks because like there's more people going to know us than the ones that they're gonna buy or be loyal to our brand. So people fall off the funnel, so we lose these people in the process. And basically this what tells us is we need to bring people into the funnel, but then after they're gone, we need to bring them back because we're going to be naturally losing them in the process. So that's one of the insights that it gives us. And the other one is that we need to adapt our messaging to who we're talking to and the level of engagement they have with the brand. So depending basically on which level of the funnel they are. So
Yeah, and something that I think it's really interesting as well to note on this, Romy, is that this is agnostic to paid media as well. Of course, we are speaking about paid media today, but
Yes,
SEO really takes into consideration the funnel as well, email marketing. So
email
all of
marketing.
the marketing strategies at some level affect the funnel strategy as well.
Exactly. It's part like inherent to any e-commerce growth strategy, lead generation, e-commerce like selling online, whatever model we have, B2B or B2C, we are going to be working with a funnel. Um, and I want to talk about prospecting, which is like bringing people to the funnel for the first time. So speaking to new audiences, basically. And um, these platforms that we are talking about, like doing paid media, they have a lot of targeting possibilities that I think are worth, commenting. So for Google, the most typical is the search keywords, that we say, okay, we want to target people that search for this when they search for it, or like people that have searched for this in the short past. But also we can target like uh, demographics, so education, employment, and also interests like business products or business services. So there are some interesting B2B functions to be found on Google. And then on Meta, it really doesn't look very much as a B2B platform, but it does have some similar features as well. So you can target education, and over there you have like fields of study, schools, etc. And also in the work part of the demographic targeting, you have like the employers, which basically is company names. You have the industry they work in, and also the job title that they have. So it's pretty detailed. We know that not everyone does like input all this data on Meta, but for the people that do, you can target them with these tools. And finally, LinkedIn, which is like the ideal platform basically for this kind of targeting. We have a lot of very detailed options. So we have the industry, the company, the company name, the company, even the growth rate, a lot of things, very detailed segmentations for the companies. You also have education with degrees, fields of studies, like a lot of detail as well. And about the experience, you have the function, the seniority, the title, even member skills, which is the one that we input on LinkedIn ourselves. So yes, a lot of things to use over here. And then that was prospecting, so bringing people into the funnel. And then what happens to retargeting? So I don't know if you guys are doing retargeting, the ones that are doing paid media, but this is a must because 98 of the people who visit our website will leave without doing anything, buying anything, or contacting us. And they will be lost forever unless we bring them back into our funnel. And this is not me, this is MailChimp data over here, but the 2% conversion rate is like an industry standard, so it makes sense to know like that 98% is not converting and what happens to them, right? So we also have some LinkedIn data saying that visitors that are retargeted then are 3 times more likely to click on our ad and 70% more likely to convert. So really, it's a must to be retargeting. And even Google says that combining retargeting with prospecting increases your sales at even 50%. So really a very big recommendation to be doing retargeting. And finally, I want to mention content, which we know content is king, but especially when we talk about digital marketing and knowing that the beauty of it is basically like we know how, where, and in which context we are targeting people. So we really need to be relevant. We know who we're speaking to and what they're doing, what well we do it. So the more relevant we are, the more effective our communication will be. And then last but not least on all of this, like the key results of B2B paid media campaign, what is it? Well, it's a lead. Like we're not going to be selling online, most likely. So we're going to be generating leads that then will be turned on sales, most likely by our team, our sales team. So this is how roughly B2B differentiates the most from B2C. Lead generation from e-commerce. I know there are some B2Bs that can sell online and everything, but we want to talk more about leads, which are, the most characteristic B2B KPIs. So KPI for volume would be lead, and then the cost per lead will tell us the performance. Like we can compare one month with the other. How was our cost per lead? Did we do better or not? What was the click to lead conversion rate? What was the lead to sale conversion rate? And then what is our cost per sale? So this is our new KPIs that we're going to have here. And over here, we have some examples of different lead generation forms, which are the way in which we capture these leads. So over here, we have two different forms that are located on a website, and these are examples of our own of Tabano. So the one on the left is a contact form where people basically leave their email and their name, and we ask them for some, like one question, like what they're interested in, but this is customizable, and you can basically make this lead generation more specific, or more like the lead that you get is going to be more qualified. And then the one on the right is a chat, which has some like questions or answers suggested there. So it's another way of starting a conversation with a potential client. Over here, we have an example of in-platform lead generation forms. So on the three that we were talking about, like Google, Meta, and LinkedIn, they allow for lead generation forms, which they deploy inside the same platform once you click on the ad on the call to action. And they have like all the fields that you need to fill in, and particularly on the social networks, they are already pre-filled. So people don't even have to make the effort of writing. They just submit it and they keep browsing or, doing whatever they were doing on the same app they were before. So it's very seamless, and the experience makes like the volume much higher than when you have to go to another website and then leave your contact details over there. And then there is another form of like in-platform lead generation form that is actually in-platform messaging. We also have this on Meta, and these are some LinkedIn examples where you basically get a message that is paid for. It's like the ad is the message itself, and you can either go from the message to a lead form or to a website, or you can, start a conversation over there. So it's very interesting, and there are different ways of communicating. Then over here, I wanted to illustrate like the difference between these three, apart like from how they look and how they work. Usually when we have a website form or chat, we're going to be having less volume, as we said before, but more quality of those leads, because it's going to be a much a specific form. People are going to be like taking the time of going to the website and filling in everything and going through our content as well to then end up giving us their details. As in the other side of this chart, we have the in-platform message, which is the most impulsive one, where you are like in that moment speaking. So probably you're gonna get more volume but less quality. So we're basically looking at a trade-off between quality and volume in these different kinds of forms. So this is something that we need to take into consideration, not only in the type of form that we're choosing, but also in what we ask from the user inside the forms. So every change that we're doing, and as I was saying before, A/B testing is key for paid media and for digital marketing overall. So any change that we're doing, it should mean to improve either quality, volume, or both. So don't forget to do so. And it's poll time again.
Yeah, it's the final poll. So basically, well, most of you answer that you run a B2B business. So you must have one of these four at least, one of these three at least lead forms on your website. So we want to know which is the one that you are currently using the most. Of course, this is like your main CTA or should be if you're running a B2B business right now on your site, because we want people to contact, to request a quote, or to chat to really generate a lead. While you're answering this, I want to remind you as well that you can leave us your question in the Q&A below. Most of you have already submitted some, but yeah, we still have some room for more questions. So please don't forget to do so. Okay, this is interesting because every poll that we run, it's like all the options are really used. So it's good. We have a really good parity between all of the options. Okay,
Okay.
so it seems that request a quote is the one that is being used the most, which makes sense in a way. The chat usually requires you to have an integration as well on the website, so it's not the most used one. So I don't know what you think about these results from.
Yeah, I think that, request a quote is a good one to have because it's like people that are writing are basically wanting a purchase, so you get the good context there. But I think that it's also interesting to have something intermediate, and be able like give the space to people to contact you even if they don't want to ask for something very specific. But it's great to have something at least. Like no one said none, and that's the most important uh
Exactly.
thing to highlight over here. Okay, so what do we offer in exchange of these contact details? So basically, on the request a quote, we're offering a quote. These people are very interesting and they want a specific thing in return of sending us their details. It's a very functional, it's almost a transaction. But what happens when we are telling people, hey, we're gonna make your life so much easier, come work with us, and they're already working with someone else or they have a different solution in place, and we're like, why should I give you my contact details? Like, I don't even understand what you're offering to me. So a lot of companies, what they do is like they offer something in exchange of those contact details. So people are more eager to share them, basically. So I wanted to share some examples, and the typical is the free consultation, the free trial, or the free version of a product. And over here is like a typical pricing of a SaaS company where like they have like the premium, the standard, the essential, and the free one. There's the most basic pricing option, but it really works because people, they start using your tool for free and then they're hooked up and they get to know it. And if you're really confident on what you're offering, and they might switch to premium. Then we have free tools, and I really like this example. This is Neil Patel. He's a like SEO guru, and he has this tool that's called Ubersuggest, where he offers like free tool. There are a lot of tools like this that are paid, but this is a great free one where you get some cool SEO insights for free. And basically to use it, you just have to sign in. So he gets your contact details. There's also free research, reports, white papers, that kind of stuff, which I think are very interesting and I've seen work a lot. And this one is one that I tend to use a lot as paid media manager. What I do a lot is like I want some benchmarks, and sometimes customers ask like, but is the CPC right, or this is the CTR right? And you need some benchmark, something to compare to, and some industry data is nice. And these guys do it like every year, and it's very useful. And of course, they write emails to me constantly because they have my details. And then we have the free educational resources. And here I'm putting some examples of our own from Tabano. Here we have some case studies which are very illustrative of what we do, mostly in the web design area. We also have some SEO, UX, SEO and UX tactics. So this is an ebook, that to download it, you need to give us your details, and you're also being part of a lead generation strategy. You guys are participating from this webinar. We have your emails now. We know who you are. We're not going to be contact you. I don't know, like maybe not tomorrow, but we should be talking in the next couple weeks.
I feel like this is like an inception, Romy, what you did right now. You're
Slowly.
telling that they are becoming a lead in the B2B. This is crazy.
Yes. Okay. No, I'm kidding, but it's part of it, of what we do as an agency. We want to show like what we do and who you would be working with if you were working with us. So it's part of showing our value proposition to you guys. Okay, so to close this introductory kind of long presentation for introduction, I wanted to mention the customer journey, which it does not end when the lead is generated. Instead, we need to follow up with a sales strategy. We need to convert these leads into sales. So here, a CRM might take place, the sales team, and there's a process. Like, it can be more simple or more complex. You will decide that depending on the amount of leads that you have or the other size of your company. But basically, it does not end with a lead. You need to, after, turn it into a sale. So whenever you're going to be doing paid media, it's important that you not only take into consideration like what platform you're going to use or how much you want to invest, but what are you going to do after you get these leads? Like, how are you going to contact them and convert them into sales? Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Romy. It was really insightful. So, yeah, now let's into the most exciting part of this session. So we'll be diving into the Q&A. So we have received some really fantastic questions, both from you right now and before the session. You had the opportunity to send those via an email. So remember, if you have any questions right now, you can submit them in the Q&A below. But we can start with the first one. This is one that came before the session, Romy. So it's one that people included on the email, and it's really a really straightforward one. So, what
Okay.
is the best way to increase brand awareness for B2B?
Okay, so we can talk awareness and we can also talk performance. Usually I try to separate these two kinds of campaigns. So for awareness, we're talking about building the upper funnel, so bringing new people in. We're gonna be trying to be using all of these prospecting targeting tools. And you know, like probably we're gonna be using like reach, engagement campaigns, video view campaigns, and in my opinion, like the best format is the video, which allows us for storytelling, giving an enriched messaging. It's also very attractive, and we can do this all in Meta, LinkedIn, YouTube, like even in Google with the demand gen campaigns. Like there are a lot of ways of doing this, but I think that here we're looking at volume, we're looking at small actions, but that give a lot of people like access to our funnel. And then we have the performance campaigns that are like opposite to this. They're not about bringing people in, but making them go through the funnel. So we're talking retargeting here, which we can also do in all of these platforms. And I don't think it's so much about the format like on the other one where the video is very powerful. Here it's most important to have a strong CTA, to be very clear about what we're talking about, to highlight why you're better than the others, make people want to talk to you, and maybe use a lead generation form, as we were saying, and probably lead generation objective or conversion objective, more sophisticated objectives, not so much about volume, but more about quality. So here it would be like search on Google, messaging campaigns on LinkedIn, lead form campaigns, that kind of thing.
It's really interesting because you pretty much mentioned all the things that we discussed during the presentation. So that is great. Of course, something really important to note as well, I think, for most companies is that brand awareness is not something that really impacts only on your paid media work. So it's something that spreads across all of the channels. So it's always good to consider this. It's something that I think less and less is being considered. So there are a lot of people that are more focused on performance right now, but it's on the really basis of digital marketing and marketing as a whole. So that was a really great question. So let's move to the next one. And it's how do we determine ad budget for B2B campaigns?
Okay, I am marking like that these ones are going to be answered live. Okay.
Okay, great.
I see them on the chat. So how to determine the ad budget? So basically this will depend on a wide range of things. Like what do you want to do, who you're gonna speak with, like where you want to speak, like in which platform, how much you want to spend also, because what's important about these platforms is like they're not asking you for a specific like price. Like they have minimum budgets per day, but that's it. Like it's $10 or $20 maximum. It's not minimum per day. Like it basically depends on what you want to do. And to be honest, like as there are no fixed prices and ad costs are going to be depending on the impression and the targeting, you're probably gonna have to run some campaigns to basically know how much they're gonna be costing you. So after you run some like initial campaign, it's good to do some reverse engineering. And I really like this. It's like saying, okay, what's my goal? And from this, I get to how much I want to spend. So typically you say, okay, what's my average order value or my customer lifetime value? Okay, let's say it's 1,000. So how much can I pay for a new customer, and it needs to be less than your customer lifetime value to be profitable. And what's your conversion rate from lead to sales? So I have to take into consideration that maybe I need two leads to get one sale. So that's also adding up to what you have to pay. Then how there you get like how much I want to pay for a lead. Then what's my conversion from click to lead? So that basically gives us how much we want to pay per click. And then we say, okay, how much traffic do I need to make this significant? How much traffic do I need to get a significant amount of leads and afterwards sales? And there you more or less have your budget. But in a nutshell, I'd say, depending on what you want to do, where you want to speak, and the targeting, as much specific you are, you can be more expensive. Test a little bit and see, the initial results, and then try to do some reverse engineering from your goals to where you're actually big spending.
Amazing. Yeah. And honestly, the reverse engineering is something that we usually do on a daily
Yeah.
basis to really understand how much we are spending on the campaigns and if it is optimal. So it's for sure our recommendation. And the next question is really tied with this one. And it's how can we measure the ROI of our B2B paid media campaigns?
Okay, so imagine that you are doing a lead generation campaign. You run it, you get 10 leads. So you have your Excel file with the numbers, the names, the emails, whatever, of these 10 people. You call them, all of them, or you write to them, but let's say you call them and you get your answers from them. So they're interested in following up, they want a quote or they don't, or this was an error. So you have like the status of all of them, and then you follow up with the sales, and in the end you have, okay, this was a sale from like this amount of money, and this was the revenue, and so on. And in the end you like total and say, okay, I invested, I don't know, $2,000 and I sold 10,000. Okay, so this was positive ROI. That is like the simple way if you're looking at a simple scale, right? If you're doing big scale, probably you will need a CRM, and it's difficult like in the middle to like how to do this process to switch tools and from the homemade to the tool using. But then there's some KPIs that you can also take into consideration. Like you'll probably know your customer lifetime value at some point, maybe not when you start, but yes, after you have some years in business, and you will know how much you want to pay per lead or per sale. So in the end, the cost per sale can be a very good KPI to follow every month, or at least the cost per lead, to measure at least your paid media results. Then the cost per sale or the conversion rate from lead to sale will tell you the quality of these leads.
Yeah, amazing. And honestly, like a really good answer. I think, well, most of the companies that we have on the chat right now are running NetSuite. So it's really important as well to understand the power of the analytics that you can get and all of the information that you can get, all the insights that you can get from combining NetSuite with analytics. So yeah, a really good way of understanding the ROI of B2B paid media campaigns. So another one from the audience, and this one is more particular to their experience. So it says, in my experience, LinkedIn CPC is very expensive. Do you know ways to improve it?
Yes. Yes. So yes, typically LinkedIn CPC can be expensive, especially when you're doing conversion campaigns or lead campaigns. Sometimes when you do traffic campaigns, they're not as expensive. So um, one recommendation would be maybe prospect on LinkedIn, like do your prospecting there, because as we saw, the prospecting targeting options are great. And I've done this a couple times and I've had great success. It's like doing, for example, this company was a industry, manufacturing industry supplier, and they were very specific. So they had this blog post on why, like, the materials that they used were much better. So we did a traffic campaign with this content, which was very specific, but very rich as well. And we got very good quality traffic from this content posts. And these people went to the website, but then we didn't retarget them on LinkedIn. Instead, we did the retargeting on YouTube, on Meta, where the retargeting was way cheaper. So over there, we could get great leads, but without paying so much for the cost per lead. And we made both things, we made awareness and performance. We were present where our target audience was. And then the retargeting, we could do it everywhere else because we didn't need people to be, telling us what they worked on, because we already knew they were on our website. And if they were in the specific pages, was because they were interested in what we had to say. So it really worked for us to improving the overall CPC of our campaigns, but especially the cost per lead in the end. So yeah, that's one of the things I'd say. And also I would say try to be present in search whenever you're doing an awareness campaign. Try to be, available. So either have a very good SEO when people look for your brand, or have a branded campaign on Google as well.
Yeah, honestly, like we have one question that is directly tied to branded campaigns. So it's literally, do you recommend doing branded campaigns on search? So
Oh,
it's good that
yes.
you touched that point.
And this is a question that we get all the time, like from our customers. We always recommend doing branded campaigns on search, especially when the competition is bidding for our name. That's where you need to do it, because they will be like showing their ad before your organic result. But honestly, like, branded search is very cheap. Like, it doesn't cost you a lot, and it really can improve the way that people go into your website. Like, you can put the correct links to the places that you want them to go to the product pages, or to the request a quote page. Like, it can make it so much easier than in the organic, and you improve a lot the way you're positioned and how they perceive your brand when they search for you, and all of the page is your company and there's no interference. So yeah, we usually do recommend it because it's like very low cost and has like a very positive impact on the user.
Yeah, amazing. So if you're planning to run Google Ads, you already know the answer. You should create one branded campaign. Okay, we have one that came also through an email. So this is probably one really interesting one. So it's how to target more desktop traffic effectively, which in a way I think makes sense for some B2B businesses, because you want people that are people that are going to buy to you are probably spending most of their time in the desktop. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Um, Good. So, um, this is a good question. Before, it was very easy to do the desktop or mobile exclusion on Google search. Typically, then that was out. So now you can do targeting on desktop only or mobile only or whatever device targeting you want to do for in Google for video, demand gen, and display campaigns. So I think that's a good possibility if you need desktop traffic particularly. Then in Meta you can do this as well, only that in Meta if you target desktop only you'll be showing on Facebook feeds only because all the other ad placements are mobile only. And then on LinkedIn, it's not very clear whether this is a device exclusion, but there's a place on the attributes. You go to member traits and there's the device preferences. So you'll be saying, I want to show this to people that prefer desktop. So they're most likely going to be logging in desktop. And then you also have the different formats that from the images that some of them are for mobile that are square, and then the other ones, the desktop one is the horizontal one. So it's not the an exclusion maybe, but it works pretty well. And we know that LinkedIn can be more desktop-ish because of the nature of the platform as well. But also I'm not really sure like why you would want the desktop traffic. If you want it, that's how you get it. But also like remember that now the multi-screen, people are doing like the same thing on two different screens all the time. Like they go for lunch and whatever they were doing at work on their computer, they're doing it on the phone. So I have Slack on my phone, and I know that all of us here in Tabano are in the same situation. Like we go for lunch and we are like looking at our cell phones in case someone wrote to us on Slack, and that's how we tend to work right now. And to be honest, the platforms themselves are not wanting us to segment so much per device. Like like we're saying, some of the options are now not available, but there are some workarounds, as we said before.
So in a nutshell, it really depends from platform to platform, and it's something that we don't advise that much. But if we do, it should be tested. Is that correct?
As everything, yes, everything
Yes.
worth
Okay, I like
testing.
it. That's one key takeaway for you today. Test everything. We have another one that came from the chat, and it's basically which is the best paid media platform to start.
Okay. So over here, I'd say that it will definitely depend on what you're selling, what you want, who you want to talk to, what kind of ad you want to show, like what message you want, to put out there. But I think that all of them are very, very, useful. They all have a lot of cool things and unique things. It's true that LinkedIn can be more expensive, so sometimes it's you try not to use it as a first option. Then Google, if you do search, you're gonna be capturing the people that are already like down the funnel of evaluating alternatives of buying. So probably doing Google seems like the lowest hanging fruit. And then not so much for B2B. I think that Meta wouldn't be my first option for B2B, but yes, for B2C a lot because it's the place for a lot of industries. But let's say that for Google, on B2B, it's probably the place to start with search. Yeah.
That is great.
Also,
Yeah, that is great.
a great way to, the reverse engineering that we are saying about, like Google search offers a lot of planning tools. So you can like plan before you actually run the campaigns. It's not accurate or not so accurate, but you have some information on CPC and search volume that Google gives you. So you can at least have an idea of the market size or prices.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that covered really well the topic. So let's take a look at another question. We have what are the best practices for using Google Ads in a B2B context? And I think given that you answer that, it's best to start with that. It's a pretty good question
Yeah,
to follow up.
Yeah, definitely Google search is like the lowest hanging fruit in terms of consider like the stage of the funnel in which a customer is in, and not your brand's funnel, but maybe like their own funnel, their customer journey, let's say on deciding on one alternative or the other. As we also were commenting before, doing branded search, when it comes to, it's like some kind of retargeting, like being there for people that are looking for you. There's also cool stuff about Google. It's very specific on its location targeting. It has the B2B segmentations, as we were saying before, the ones that we showed in the presentation. It also has retargeting options. Apart from the branded search, that is like a kind of retargeting, you can have increased bidding for retargeting. You can do retargeting only campaigns on video, demand gen, or display. And there is a very cool thing that we've used a lot for B2B in the past, which is the ad scheduling. You can show your ads only in business days and only in business hours. So when your ad, is well in business, works better on business hours, it's something very cool to use. Like we use this with companies that had like live chats. So basically, they needed people to communicate with their call center or chat center on business hours. So we only run the ads over there, and it was great.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I'm really conscious of time, so we can probably take a look at one last question. Let me check. So we have a few that came from YouTube. I don't think we will be able to answer those right now, but no worries. No question will be an answer. So we have a few surprises for you guys as well. So I think this one is pretty good to wrap up as the end. And is what is the best offer for free in exchange for the contact details?
Okay. Well, we mentioned in the presentation the free product, let's say, on the free version, the research report or white paper, and also the educational resources. So the free version or the free trial, it's great because, as I was saying before, like people get to actually try your product. It builds like a connection, like instantly. Once you start using that, like let's say a project manager, or once you start using it, you don't want to abandon it. It sticks. So that's the good part, but the bad part is that sometimes we never end up like getting the premium version. We like love the free version and that's it. So yeah, it takes time and money to develop this free stuff, and sometimes it may or not return. Then for the research ones, like as I was saying, like I really trust this source that's giving me these benchmarks and so on. Like it's building voice of authority for them, and it's situating their brand in the top of mind of the industry. And it's great because sometimes like I've seen media sharing like this kind of reports, so it can also create like organic buzz. So you're sharing something that's valuable, and people want to give you their contact details, like again, something that's valuable. But the downside here is like it takes time and money to get this reports and this research done, and it also takes time to get this to get to your decision makers from your target. So sometimes you need to keep doing this for years, and until it actually makes the trick for you. And then the free educational resources, they're widely used across different industries. And the good side is, like, for example, ourselves, like we have the resources to do it in-house. So it's not that we need to pay a lot to do this educational material. But the downside is like sometimes as well, like our prospects think that, okay, with this is it, so I don't need to pay for a service. So I think that all of them have their good and their bad parts. I think it will depend on what you're selling, like what your industry is, and what is better for the decision maker on your targeting. And if more than one like relates to you and works for you and you can do more than one, test it. Definitely test it and see which one works better.
Love it, love it. Test it, test it, test it. It's like the
Yes.
key takeaway for today. I don't think we will have time to answer any other question right now, Romy. So yeah, I think just as a way to wrap up, what are the top three things that you think people should take away from this presentation, from this Q&A?
Okay. Well, first of all, build your funnel, prospect and retarget, both of them. Second, track your results, measure your ROI. You guys were asking about it. It's obviously something you have to keep in mind to make sure you're doing good, and you have to keep doing whatever you're doing or not. And then make sure you test and optimize with those results. I think those are the three.
Okay, that is great. Yes. So yeah, before we leave, we do have some exciting news for you. So basically, to help you implement the strategies that we discussed today, we prepare a comprehensive checklist. It pretty much covers most of the things that we discussed today. There might be a few questions here and there that isn't covered in here, but we will make sure to really include everything that we discussed today. Also, the answers for the questions that went unanswered, those will be included as well. And yeah, this is basically it for us today. Thank you so much, Romy, for your time. I think it's really good to have this kind of interaction and for the people to really, the clients, the prospects, everyone, to really have a space to make these kind of questions. We hope really you really had a good time. You have learned a little bit about Bay Media and B2B businesses. Yeah, so keep in touch, and we are here to help you.
Thank you all for coming. It was great.
Thank
And
you
thank
all
you
so much.
for your assistance today. Bye-bye.